Episode 28, The Namekian God's Journey begins. The evil Piccolo returns. Gohan continues with his training with the powerful guardian Yamoshi in the planet of the gods. Meanwhile, Piccolo heads to the other side of the planet, being guided by the leader of the guardians, Piccon, who has promised to train him. Piccon takes Piccolo to a strange portal, and as soon as the two go through their portal, they find themselves in a large desert that is taken by a terrible sandstorm, so intense that it is practically impossible for them to see what is 1 meter ahead. Curious about that place, Piccolo asks, "What is this desolate place, Piccon?" The Guardian replies, "This place is called the Desert of Perdition. Our goal is to reach the center of this desert." The Namekian asks, "And what's so important there?" The Guardian replies, "Something extraordinary, but I think it's the kind of thing that it's better for you to see than for me to tell you." Confirmed, Piccolo says, "So you're the type who loves a mystery. Alright then, I'll trust you, but isn't it better to wait for this storm to pass before continuing?" Piccon reveals, "The sandstorm never passes in the Desert of Perdition. It is eternal. It works as a protection for this place." That revelation causes curiosity in Piccolo. Protection for what? But the Guardian again gives an indirect answer. "For what I'm going to show you," says Piccon. Despite not understanding exactly what is going on, Piccolo is already very impressed. A desert whose existence only exists to protect a secret. It must be something extraordinary. Piccon warns the Namekian, "Pay close attention, Piccolo. It's best to always stay close to me and never lose me from your line of sight. It's very easy to get lost in this place." Piccolo agrees. "You're right. I can't sense divine ki, so if I lost you, I'd be in serious trouble." But Piccon explains that the problem is much more complex than that. Piccon says, "Even if you could sense divine ki, the sands of the Desert of Perdition have magical properties that distort those kinds of senses, so finding anyone by ki is impossible here. The other common senses are also limited, as the storm limits our vision because of the sand and limits our hearing because of the wind. In other words, if you get lost here, you will hardly be able to find me again, or find this portal, which is the only way out of this place." After hearing all this, Piccolo gets curious. "And how do you know this place so well that you want to venture into its center with me?" The other green man replies, "I once got lost here." Then Piccolo tries to refute him, saying, "So there's a possibility to leave once you get lost." But the attempt at refutation is frustrated. Piccon says, "Yes, if you have a few millennia of life to spare." Piccolo is in shock. "You're kidding. You spent millennia in here?" Piccon confirms. "Yes, the other gods told me it was somewhere around 7,000 years. Piccolo is even more in shock. 7,000 years trapped inside a sandstorm, where you can't see, hear, or even have any sense of direction. You must have great mental resilience not to have gone crazy with all that." The Guardian says, "At least it helped me get to know the place a little. And also, with what I found here, it was worth going through all that." Now Piccolo is even more curious. "Well then, just show me what's so important about this place." Piccon agrees. Piccon says, "Come on, and remember to always hold on to me." Piccolo takes Piccon by the shoulder, and then they enter the desert, immediately disappearing in the huge sandstorm. Piccolo and Piccon advance through the great storm. However, Piccolo, even holding on to Piccon's shoulder, has difficulty continuing. "I can't move forward, Piccon. This force that pushes us is very powerful." The Guardian tries to motivate him. "This is happening because we're almost there. Hold on a little longer." "I can't," says Piccolo. At one point, the wind becomes so strong that Piccolo lets go of Piccon's shoulder. But before he is blown away by the wind, Piccon catches his arm, as he says, "You have to make it." The Namekian justifies, frustrated, "I'm trying, but it's my limit." Piccon thinks for a moment, then decides to take drastic action. "Piccolo, pierce my body." This takes Piccolo by surprise, asking if he's crazy, but Piccon justifies the idea. Piccon says, "If I go forward carrying you like that, your arm will be ripped off. But if you're holding my body with an arm across it, it'll be steadier. I'll lower my ki for you to hit me. Do it at once." Even with great regret, Piccolo obeys Piccon, crossing the god's body with his arm and holding tight to him. Ignoring the pain, Piccon concentrates his ki and starts flying with more power as he shouts, "Let's go!" With each meter Piccon travels, the wind gets stronger and stronger, until suddenly it breaks. Then he gives the good news. "We're here." When Piccolo opens his eyes, he finds himself in what seems to be the center of a hurricane, a region surrounded by walls of wind and sand, and all that storm seems to happen on the other side of these walls. Looking up, Piccolo sees a magnificent blue sky illuminated by an intense sun. Looking down, he sees on the desert floor a magnificent sculpture of the shape of a golden dragon, and this sculpture was the size of a mountain. Seeing this, Piccolo is completely amazed. That's beautiful. Then Piccon makes the announcement. Piccolo, behold the ruins of Zarama. Piccolo asks, ruins of Zarama? You mean the dragon god Zarama? The one who created the Super Dragon Balls? Piccon confirms. Exactly. Piccon lunges forward, pulling his body away from Piccolo's arm and removing it completely. Piccolo was so surprised that he even forgot that his arm was going through Piccon. After pulling Piccolo's arm from his body, Piccon begins to heal. Piccolo comments, I feel a majestic aura coming from this place. Piccon agrees. I feel the same. The first time I was here. To be honest, I still feel that way now. Anxious, Piccolo asks Piccon to go inside. Piccon agrees. At that moment, Piccolo and Piccon enter the ruins of Zarama through the mouth of the large dragon sculpture, as that is where this gate is located. The ruins of Zamara looked as big from the inside as it was from the outside. The ruins were full of corridors, and on the stone walls of these corridors were engraved several apparently very old drawings. Curious about these drawings, Piccolo pays attention to them and realizes something. The impression I get from looking at these drawings is that the entire history of the Namekians and the Dragon Balls is here. At one point he sees a drawing of a planet that he recognizes as Namek from Universe 7, and next to that planet is a large ship that he recognizes as belonging to Frieza. Piccolo says, that's the time Frieza's army attacked Namek. Looking closely at all the drawings following that one, Piccolo realizes that the whole history is told in those pictures. Piccolo says, this is the moment when Frieza and his men practically wiped out my entire race in my universe. This is the moment when I faced Frieza after making a fusion with Nail. This one is definitely Goku transforming into a Super Saiyan facing Frieza. Even in the history of the Namekians, this guy is there, Piccon explains. By the looks of it, in the ruins of Zarama, there is the entire history of all the Namek people and the Dragon Balls, including recent histories. Piccolo says, I never thought there would be such a place. After walking for some more time, Piccolo and Piccon leave the corridors and end up entering a huge hall, whose center is completely empty. But at the back there is a huge wall, and it is from that wall that the two approach. On that wall, from left to right, there are several ruins written in the language that Piccolo has never seen in his life. After these ruins are engraved designs that appear to be the 7 Dragon Balls, and within each one is the image of a dragon. Then comes the drawing of a large dragon, apparently giving a blessing to a Namekian who is depicted in the image with a great radiance. Piccolo asks, is that what you wanted to show me? What is this? Piccon says his theories. I don't know for sure, but I've theorized a few things. I don't understand what's written on these runes, but I imagine it's some kind of ancient language, created by Zarama, and I also believe that what's written there is the key to understanding the other figures on this wall. About those orbs with dragons inside, they are definitely the Super Dragon Balls, but I don't know who those dragons are. The great dragon that comes after the orbs is definitely Zarama, the creator of your race, and he is apparently gifting this Namekian being with some power. From what I believe, this Namek is actually the Namek god. Piccolo is surprised. A Namekian god? I've never heard of anything like that. Piccon continues. Piccolo, I theorize that after gaining an understanding of what is represented on this wall, we will discover the key for you to become a Namekian god. Now Piccolo is even more surprised. You want me to become a god? I don't think that's possible, Piccon. From what I see of the Namekian in this figure, it's a being that's far above me. But Piccon insists. Piccolo, in all universes, you are the strongest among the Namekians. I am certain that you are the one who can become the divine figure, and we will never know without trying. If you manage to become that deity, it will be a key step for us to be able to win the battle against the 5 great celestial mages. Piccolo asks, and why do I need to become a deity for that? I thought the purpose of my training was simply to increase my powers. Piccon says, indeed. If you become a deity, your powers will increase dramatically, but that won't be your main contribution to saving the universe. At that moment, Piccolo sighs, convinced by Piccon's words. Alright, I'll do as you ask. After all, you're a legendary hero who's done a lot for us in the past. Piccon gets very excited. Excellent. Now try to understand what is written on these runes. Piccolo asks, and how do I do that? I don't understand these letters and symbols. Piccon theorizes. I feel that everything written there has magical properties, probably made by Zarama himself. As one of your descendants, perhaps you will be able to assimilate this energy and understand what is written. Despite not convinced, Piccolo agrees. Alright, I'll try. Piccolo touches the writing and suddenly half of those writing runes begin to glow, and a magical force takes over Piccolo, who starts screaming as his pupils shrink to the point of disappearing. In Piccolo's mind, several strange images begin to appear, and finally he hears a loud roar, before finally removing his hand from the runes and falling to his knees, panting. Worried, Piccon approaches. Are you okay? What was that? Piccolo explains. Indeed. there is a great magical power surrounding these writings. It's all very strange, but it was as if the writings had come out of the walls and transcribed themselves in my mind, and somehow I managed to understand what they said. Piccolo is very happy. That should be a start. What did these things tell you? Piccolo tells, they said that to continue with the ritual I need to become a complete being. Piccolo says, but you are already a complete being, correct? So keep going. Only half of the runes lit up, so the other half is left for you to decipher. But Piccolo refuses. No, for some reason I know that even if I try, I won't be able to understand the other half of what's written. The Piccolo excitement is gone. But why? You should be able to read them. You're a complete Namekian, aren't you? Confused, Piccolo replies, well, I should be. I became complete when I merged with Kami-sama several years ago, but for some reason I just can't go forward. How disappointing, says Piccolo as he sits with his back against the wall, clearly frustrated, and then asks, tell me just for curiosity, how many Namekians have you fused with? Piccolo explains, with 2. The first of them is named Nail, a Namekian warrior I found on the brink of the death of Namek at the time Frieza attacked the planet, and the second was Kami-sama, the ancient earth god. Kami-sama was my father's good half, who was called Piccolo Daimao, the king of evil. I fused with Kami-sama at the time when I had to face the androids on Earth. At that time I became a complete being. Piccolo asks, was this Kami-sama one half of your father? Explain it better. Piccolo does as he asks, Kami-sama and my father, Piccolo Daimao, were just one being. When old Kami-sama aspired to be the Earth God, he was required to get rid of all the evil that dwelled in his heart. So after a lot of effort, he got rid of that inner evil, which became another person, which was my father. My father ended up dying at the hands of Goku, but a little before that he gave his life to me, and then I started to form a bond with Kami-sama similar to the one my father formed. So when Kami-sama and I fused, my powers increased a lot, and I was able to become a complete being. After hearing this explanation, Piccolo smiles. That's it, Piccolo. Actually, you are not a complete being as you think. Piccolo is caught by surprise. What do you mean, Piccolo? The Guardian explains his point. Think about it. Maybe you could have felt like a complete being when you fused with Kami-sama, as he had a bond with you because of your father's genes. However, the truth is that at the time he fused with you, Kami-sama was not a complete being, as he did not have his original other half, which was your father. By that logic, you cannot be a complete being while Kami-sama within you is incomplete. We need to make you really complete to continue this ritual, and we'll do that by resurrecting your father and fusing you with him. Piccolo doesn't like that idea. Are you crazy? I will never resurrect my father or join him. But Piccolo insists. That's the only way. Do you want to save the universe or not? Piccolo lowers his head. I want to, but this way. Piccolo closes his eyes and thinks it through for a few seconds. After thinking it over, he seems to make up his mind. Alright, if it's the only way, I'll do it. Piccolo is very excited again. Excellent! We will resurrect your father using the Dragon Balls, and then you will fuse your beings, and you will be complete. After deciding to revive Piccolo Daimao, to unite him with Piccolo, Piccolo and Piccolo leave the ruins of Zarama and leave the desert of perdition, returning to the fortress of the planet of the gods. They ask Shin to teleport them to Namek. With Shin's Kai, Piccolo and Piccolo immediately arrive on Namek and ask Shin to come back for them within a few hours, after they finish everything on the planet. Once Shin leaves, they meet with the Namekian Guru and convinces him to give them the Dragon Balls. With the help of the Guru and other Namekians, Piccolo and Piccolo quickly gathered the Dragon Balls, then summoned Porunga, the dragon god of Namek. In Namek's language, the Guru makes his 3 requests to Porunga. The first was that Piccolo Daimao be resurrected. The second was that Piccolo Daimao was transferred from Earth where he died, to Namek. And the third was that he was bound by chains, which he would not have the strength to break loose. Porunga fulfilled the Guru's 3 wishes and then disappeared. Now Piccolo Daimao stood before them, alive and bound by magical chains, from which he could not break free. Before his father, Piccolo trembles, surprising Piccolo, who thinks, interesting, even though his power is so much greater, he still trembles in front of his father's figure. Piccolo Daimao, who until then seemed to be asleep on his knees, finally raises his head and finds himself in front of dozens of people watching him. Piccolo Daimao says, what the hell is going on here? At one point he sees his son among all those people. You are my son! Afraid, Piccolo confirms. Hi, father. Happy, the Demon King says. I knew it. I knew my son would defeat the damned Goku and revive me. Why? My son, why did you raise me with these chains? And why are we surrounded by people who look like us? Well, never mind. Just release me so we can start wrecking hell on this world. But Piccolo says, my father, the situation is not as you imagine. The king fades a smile. Piccolo Daimao says, but what are you saying, son? Well, now that I see it well, there's something different about you. I feel something inside you. Is that Kami-sama? Why is this bastard in your body? Explain yourself now. Piccolo explains, Father, a lot of things happened. I'm no longer part of the family of evil. Piccolo Daimao gets very angry. You bastard! What are you saying? Is this a bad joke? The son replies, It's true, Father. I no longer fight to destroy things and kill people. I fight to save them. A silence reigns for a moment, until it is finally broken with a loud and long hysterical laugh from the Demon King. My son fights to save people? You cursed traitor! How dare you bring me back to life only to embarrass me like this? It would be 1,000 times better to have stayed in hell than to hear that from my own son. Upon hearing his father's words, Piccolo lowers his head and closes his eyes for a moment, saddened. Then he lifts his head again and looks directly and intently into his father's eyes. You know what? I'm not going to argue with you. That's not why I brought you here. The reason you're here is that I need you to join me. The father asks, Join you? And why do you think I would do that? The son responds, Because if you don't, I'll send you back to hell. The elder Namekian replies, Do you think you can with me, you brat? The only reason you aren't in pieces right now are these chains that bind me. The younger one says, Oh yeah, so that won't be a problem. Piccolo points one of his hands at his father's chains, and using the power of his mind easily breaks them. Here's what we'll do, Father. If I win, you'll join me. If you win, you can kill me and do whatever you want from now on. Piccolo's father agrees. Alright, I'll take it. Paikon, who's next to Piccolo, backs away, and all the other Namekians do the same, startled. At that moment, Piccolo King begins to concentrate a great amount of power in one of his hands, causing a strong wind in the place. Piccolo Daimao says, I'll kill you with one blow. Piccolo Daimao leaps at Piccolo Jr. and hits him full in the chest with a strong punch that causes an impact wave that knocks away all the nearby Namekians, and also knocks down some nearby trees and houses. However, Piccolo stands still in the same place. The elder Namekian asks, impressed, What is this? Why weren't you affected by my blow? His son explains, You fool, you could be very powerful in the past, but your powers have long been outdated. With a punch that apparently he didn't even put a lot of strength into, Piccolo hits his father's stomach, who falls to his knees vomiting blood. And then he asks, How could you have gotten so strong? Piccolo says, The need to protect what was important to me made me train and overcome my limits more and more, and then I was able to get here. Of course, someone like you, who only ever wanted to cause gratuitous evil, would never understand something like that. I think your defeat is already very clear, so it's time to fulfill the agreement. Seeing his clear defeat, Piccolo King lowers his head, giving up. Piccolo touches his father's shoulder, and an intense light begins to emanate from the two Namekians, and then the bodies of father and son begin to merge. But at that moment, Piccolo begins to feel something strange. What is that? The father replies, I said I would fuse with you, but not that you would let me dominate. Let's see if your will is as strong as your body. Paikon, seeing that there was something strange, is worried. Piccolo, stop now! Something wrong could happen! However, it was too late, and the bodies of father and son became one.